Okay, so today we're going to go over on how to sell on eBay. Let's start with the research phase. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find what sells first. And in my case, I'm going to be talking about dash trim kits. That's a product that we manufacture. The only way you can really compete on eBay, well, first way is you are going to make a very big buy-in to become a distributor with the manufacturer directly, or you're going to deal with the manufacturer whose product is in demand and does not require a buy-in. So dash trim kits is a product that is in demand. There is no brand that anyone really is looking for. Dash trim kit is one of the products where you can not do a buy-in and still be competitive if you work, a deal out with Yakuza, for example. If you want to do a brand name like AEM or K&N or some other brand, I actually tried negotiating with a pretty big distributor, with several of them, and negotiating is not going to work because they can't really do anything about it, because some of the distributors are going to eBay directly and selling there. So the only way out is really going directly to the manufacturer, and some of them will require a buy-in. So let's take a look at dash kits, just to give you an example. Now, one of the tools that I use, I always talk about this tool, is TerraPeak. It's basically a research tool that you can use for anything. It doesn't have to be dash kits. It could be any brand. It could be anything at all. And just to give you an example, I'm going to type in K&N for the past 30 days in eBay Motors, and we can see how many total listings and how many total sales occurred on eBay for the past 30 days for the term K&N. So you can see that there is $584,000 of sales. There was 107,000 listings with a 4% sell-through ratio. So that's a lot of listings, and that's quite a bit of sales. But if you look at the sell-through ratio, it's not very high. And the reason why it's not very high, because everyone thinks that they can just start an online business and specifically go on eBay and sell anything they want for any price they want. So just to give you an idea of who the top sellers are for the term K&N, I'm going to click on top sellers. We're just going to see, if everyone is selling that high or low of the sell-through ratio. What you're looking at here, you have 57 pages of sellers. This is literally 57 pages of sellers. So there's, 20 results. So 20 times 57, that's 1,140 sellers attempted to sell K&N last month, well, actually this month, the current month, the past 30 days. And only the top 10 were able to get their numbers to make up, the biggest number of sales on K&N on eBay. So the question is, how do they do it? And it's very simple. It's not actually that simple, but one of the main things is the price, obviously. You have a good price, you're going to sell the product. And you can just see from here, 342 listings, 64% sell-through ratio. 87 listings, 100% sell-through ratio. 100%, 100%, 100%. All these guys have a 100% ratio, which means they know that they're going to put up something for sale today, and in the next 30 days, there's a 100% chance that it's going to sell for that price. And that makes, that's what the difference is between the successful eBay sellers and the not successful ones. So the not successful ones, maybe they're not on page 3, but, well, maybe they are. Let's just take a look. As the further we go down after page 1, we obviously see sell-through ratios, they're going to fall. Like this guy had 3,500 listings, 0.37% sell-through ratio. There is a few guys who sold at 100 because they had so little listings. They had 13 listings or something, probably selling something cheap. You can see the dollar amount. It's not very high. But, if we're going to keep going down, we'll obviously see some 100% sell-through ratios if they sold like 1 or 2 items. But majority of people see the total sales keep going down, down, down. So now we're down to 1 item sold, 1 item sold. So basically, the chances of you selling a brand name without doing some really hard negotiating or buy-ins, selling on eBay, is very slim. And this doesn't only concern K&N. This concerns anything. Because just like ranking your website on Google, there will always be a top 10 who's doing something different from you, and this is what these guys are doing different. So this is what today's webinar is about. It's to figure out what they're doing different and how to compete with the top 10 sellers on eBay for a certain line. And I'm not doing K&N today. I'm doing dash kits. So let me show you some statistics on dash kits. And the reason why I'm doing dash kits today because it's a very hot market. There is a lot of money to be made, and we have the right price. So one thing accomplished. All right. So for the term dash trim, it's not K&N sales, but there was $170,000 in sales past 30 days. If I type in dash kit, because sometimes people don't use trim, they use dash kit, probably see more listings here. There was 30,000 listings on dash kit. It didn't really change much in the total sales numbers, but bottom line is there's $173,000 in sales. The good thing about dash kits is that there's over 3,500 applications, which means there's enough for everyone to list if you're going to be taking on 20 or 30 at a time. Now, as far as top sellers, obviously, I have an account that I use for experiments, and some of my dealers have accounts. So 30-day top sellers, we have the number 2 seller. That's one of the dealers for Yakuza. This is my new experiment account, so DashKit Pro. There is room to compete because we still have the top 10 guys who are not buying dash kits from us, and because we are a manufacturer, we can compete with them, and we can have our dealers compete with them by offering them a competitive price. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that we need to do for research purposes. So first, we want to find out what sells first. So you can do your own research on whatever products you sell. I'm doing dash kits because that's what I'm promoting today. First thing we want to do is gather titles. So what do I mean by that? Well, if these guys have this guy has 100% sell-through ratio. If he has 100% sell-through ratio, that means he probably had that 100% for longer than a month. If you go back 90 days, I'm sure you'll see a very similar sell-through ratio. And what that should tell you is that his statistics are very reliable and his titles are very reliable. So you know how they say it's easier to copy than to create. Copying headlines, nobody's going to punish you for that. If he sells something over and over again, and like for example here, you can see that this vehicle sold 2 times, and the good thing about Terapeak is that they actually show you what sells on the very first pages, and then the last pages they don't show you what sold. So basically you don't have to kind of skip through everything and try to figure out what sold and what didn't. So you basically go through the ones that sold for sure, and if something sold more than once, it's going to be next to each other, which is another cool thing. Maybe not exactly next to each other, but somewhere around here. So first thing we want to do is grab the title. I recommend using like Excel. If you don't have Excel, you can use Google Docs. I actually use Google Docs, but I'll just use Excel for today. So I'm going to use Excel. I'm going to put down, it's $200. I'm going to take the URL just so I can have it for my reference. And I'll just paste it here. Okay, so let's say this is a dash kit that I want to sell. Okay, Buick Rivera 9595 dash trim kit. Here's the price that it's been selling on eBay. You want to make sure if it's free shipping or not. Obviously, that plays a role. So it is free shipping. And for some reason, oh, I see. It was offered for $200, but nobody bought it, and they did a best offer and sold it for $175. So we need to put 175 here. It was being sold for 200, but it didn't. That's the cool thing about Terapeak. Like, I love Terapeak because nobody's ever going to give you their sales statistics at the end of the month, especially if they're your competitor. Like, why would anybody give you that information? Well, eBay does because they want more people to sell on there, and they give you your competitor's information. So this information is very reliable. It doesn't matter where you sell on eBay or web or whatever. This is very good information. So, okay, so we have free shipping. I'm just going to put that down here, free. So my price, it needs to be, let me just make a few little additions to this Excel sheet just so you can kind of get an idea. Move this down. So basically I have a title, selling price, I have shipping, and then I want to put, what the eBay fee is going to be and my listing fee. And this is just a link. So eBay fee, if I sell it for $175, we're going to have probably, let's say 13% eBay fee. And let's say the listing fee is going to be, $2. Let's say you're going to make an auction out of it. So your total, I guess, your cost should be below this price, right? So cost after eBay. Basically, we're going to say, B2 minus D2 minus E2. Okay, so we're supposed to buy it. It's free shipping, so it's minus $15, right? Because it's free shipping. Okay, so basically we're supposed to buy it at 135 to compete with a specific seller. We always get charged shipping, so we're going to end up paying, plus $15 for shipping. So basically, when you're getting a quote from Yakuza, it's supposed to be less than 135 because the shipping will be added on. So then that's what we do. We're going to log in, and while we're logging in to check on the price, the other thing that I wanted to mention is we talked about titles, and we just talked about price. I missed the listing time. And what the listing time is, we were looking at Buick Riviera, and it was a 95. All right, so the same dash kit that we were looking at earlier, we needed to buy this dash kit for at least $135 to break even, okay? And the way we priced out the dash kits on Yakuza is so you can compete on eBay. So basically, your price on this dash kit would be $93 plus $15. So in other words, that you can be just like, the guy we were looking at, and I'm going to pull him up again in a second. You can sell at the same price he's selling, and obviously he sold 2 of them just a few days ago, and you can compete with him and still sell at the same price. There's no need to go lower. If he sells it for that price, he makes sales with that price, there's no reason to go under him. I mean, you can go like $1 or 2 under. He's listing at 200, meaning if you put it up for 175 or 165, you would have took these 2 sales because the people looking for this vehicle wouldn't bother going and trying to offer him a best offer because you would have the same offer for 165, which is what they were willing to pay. So getting a discount through Yakuza, you can easily compete on eBay and sell the same kits. Now, I mentioned days of the week as well as the hour of the week. It varies. Sometimes it doesn't matter, like what kind of product you're going to be selling, but sometimes it matters a lot. And you can see, where he sold his dash kits. So basically, his highest selling point for the past 30 days was done between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And specifically, he sold a lot on Friday. So he sold a moderate amount, every single day, but on Friday specifically, he sold a lot. One of the reasons could be that his listings were ending on Friday at a certain time period. But if you're competing with him one-to-one, that's the whole idea, for people to see your listing and his listing, because if he's getting 100% ratio, we want our listing to be right next to his, and we want our listing to be better. So that's the whole idea. We're following a workflow step. Like whatever I'm showing you right now, this is a step-by-step process of how to beat your competitor at their own game on eBay. Basically, we find what sells. So we found a dash trim kit. We found a very specific one. We got the competitor's title. We figured out when he lists the item, what price he sells it for, and how many he sold, right? So we saw that he sold 2 of them. Now, let's see how many more sold on eBay. So we want to go back, and we want to type in Riviera Dash, and we just want to see if anyone else is selling it, because obviously the more people sell it, the more likely we're going to make the sale, and we want to see if, maybe somebody is out there selling more than this guy. So let's type in Riviera Dash. Okay, so we have a few sellers here. We have, this guy, obviously, he sold 2. There was this guy. I don't think he was selling dash kits, though. So, and we can kind of see average price, right? We're competing with a high dollar item, not the low dollar item. So we don't care about the ones that were sold like for very inexpensive prices. So we see 1 sold for 175, 2 sold for about 170. So basically there was 3 sales on eBay that were made within the 30 days. Now, the way I use my statistic is if there was at least 4 sales per month, I want to sell that product. It's going to be a hot product for me because it's a risk. Whenever you list something on eBay, it's a risk. And obviously, the more items sell, the lower your risk is on not selling it. If there is a low risk, most likely there is more competitors. But in this case, if there is a low risk and not a lot of competitors, it's worth for me to list it. So in this case, I only got like 1 or 2 competitors at most. There's a total of 3 sales per month, which if I'm going to put my listing up, there will be 3 listings right now in play. So, I have a chance of a 33% chance of selling my kit. And obviously, what I'm going to show you in this webinar will increase my chances, more like 70% of me selling that kit, because I'm going to make everything on my auction better than my competitor. Now let's continue on. So what you want to do is analyze the listing itself and analyze the seller's template. We want to see how he's selling this item and, is there anything special in his listing and so on. So I'm just going to take this URL that I got earlier. We're going to just take a quick peek at, the little details of his auction. So it looks like he has a template. These are not Rivera installed examples. For anyone who doesn't know how Rivera looks, you simply go to Google, type in Buick, Rivera, dash, 95, and images, and you can easily see what an interior looks like. So just in case you don't know how to do that. So he's offering a bunch of different choices of colors. He's not specifying that it's a specific color kit. And he just has a diagram, no installed examples. He just has some information about the listing. So nothing special, right? Nothing special about his listing, but nonetheless, it's not a bad listing. It's okay. And then there's this other guy who sold a kit. So let me take a look at this thing. He's just showing a before and after. He has a diagram, shows all the different colors. Not a Rivera. So none of them have an installed example of a Rivera, which is good for me. Well, this is a Rivera. He has it on the auction itself, but not in the auction for whatever reason. So that's good for me because now I can, put something else that he doesn't have. So what else does he have? He has a link going outside of eBay, which is, by the way, not legal, so we can report him if anyone wants to. He has a frequently asked questions, installation instructions, shipping and returns. So, he has some stuff here, 30-day return policy, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. So I'll just use his as a reference here, just in case, when I'm going to be making my template, I want to make it better. So he has all the different colors laid out. So we analyzed his listing, and we analyzed his template, okay? We did our research. I actually do this for each one of my listings, and, well, not me personally. I have one of my workers that works for me does it. When he lists something, he does a lot of research, and even after he lists it, after 30 days, he goes back and reviews how well it did, and if it did poorly, he goes and revises it. So that's how you get to 100%, unless you naturally got it to 100% over time. Some of these guys have been selling the same thing for years, and they just eventually got it to 100% naturally. What I'm showing you is a shortcut to get to 100%. What we need to do is we need to make our listing better. So how do we make our listing better? We match the title, which I showed you earlier. We match the price. We can go $1 lower, but keep in mind that if you have the same exact price next to his listing, because you listed it on the same day at around the same time when he does relistings, there's a very good chance actually that whoever is going to click on his listing, because he sells so many, we want to capture his audience, they're going to end up clicking on your listing because yours looks identical, but maybe you have a different installed example, so they just want to kind of see which one. Maybe it's going to be pure luck. You're going to get clicked on first. We want to match the template or make it better. And I actually commissioned one template for webinar auctions, and I'm going to just show you, the difference between the top selling individual for webinar versus what I did with my auction template. We want to have better pictures. You want to take your own pictures. That's the whole idea, that installed examples and real product photos make a very big difference on how well your auction is going to sell. Obviously, price is a factor, but this is the next biggest factor, which are pictures. You want to post relevant pictures. We saw that he wasn't posting installed examples of a Riviera or a specific picture of that specific product. He was just putting general pictures. it's good if there's no competitors, but if I'm a competitor and I have specific images, I'm most likely going to end up getting the sale. You want to offer a better product. How do you offer a better product? You do that through sales copy. Copying as much information as possible from the manufacturer's website about their product, doing your own research, going to Wikipedia, finding more information, going to competitor websites, finding more information. So you want to shove as much information as possible into this sales copy. I'm talking about installation instructions. If there's free gifts, mention them. Stuff that is included that nobody mentions, mention that in your listing. Warranties, special return policies, whatever. So the more sales copy, the better. You just want to make the whole experience, I know it sounds a little funny, it's just a listing. We're going into too much detail, but we want to make the whole experience of the listing so good that we're not going to make the individual go anywhere else. And how do we do that? Well, YouTube videos of installed examples, more YouTube videos of the company. We want to keep the individual on our listing for as long as possible, because the longer he stays on our listing, the higher chances we get that he's going to actually end up buying it from us and not leaving and trying to find a better price or something like that. And again, even if they do go find a better price, that's where you come in. You want to have the best price. And what's going to end up happening is, because you have more information than the other guy, you're going to end up getting the sale because you have a better price and a better description and better pictures. You want to brag about your feedback. Neither one of those were bragging about his feedback. If you have a good feedback, put it in somewhere in your listing saying, look, everybody's happy. You're going to be happy too. You can post a personal message about yourself or your company saying that, you're not a corporation. You're a small-time seller. You take all customers very seriously. You're trying to grow your business. So you want to seem like a small business that really puts a lot of attention on customer service. This thing I'm going to show you in a second, this is the top secret that I've been promising a lot of people I'm going to show you in today's webinar. I'm going to go through these in 2 seconds. Let me just go back to my listings for webinar that I wanted to show you. Just going to do a new search here. 30 days. So one thing that I wanted to do is, this guy sells at an 80% sell-through ratio, $35,000 in sales, and this guy sells at 100%, 96% sell-through ratio, $25,000 in sales. We have $60,000 worth of sales between these two sellers, and I have a great price for webinar. There's no reason for me not to compete with them. One of the things I did was I did some research on why this guy gets such a high number of sales, and his listing it doesn't look good, but it's much better than any listing that sells webinar. In fact, he has a lot of stuff that other people don't have. And, just to give you an example, he has a whatever header. He does have his phone number on here, which I'm sure some people will appreciate. He mentions that he does free shipping. He's giving away free gifts, which is standard with webinar. He has installation instructions. He has a dyno, well, not a specific video, just a link to a bunch of videos, dyno test. It's not for this specific vehicle. He has a webinar video promoting the listing. He talks about how great the secret weapon intake is, which all of this information is from webinar. It's not his information. So basically, he did what I just told you. He took a bunch of information and shoved it into his listing, and the numbers speak for themselves. He gets a lot of sales. So he gets $35,000 a month in sales. That's that. But take a look at a template that I basically commissioned. So better header, obviously the new webinar logo, description about the product, video about the product. I'm actually going to make a specific video, some bullet points about the product, installed example about the product, some more information, free gift, why choose webinar, do-it-yourself instruction, policy, another promotional video, phone support, and I'm going to make it a black and black because that's what webinar's new theme is. It's a black and black theme. So in fact, webinar just got themselves brand new photos of their products, which are much nicer than his. They have a black background, black reflective background in their photos. So basically, we want to make our template better than our competitor in all ways possible. And this is an example of how it's done. So, this is just a sample draft, and after this, I'm going to cut it up and shove it into a lister and just fill in my, sales copy for whatever items and compete with those two sellers, and I can assure you that I'll beat them in every aspect, including price, and most likely I'm going to tap into the sales that they haven't tapped into. These are all self-explanatory about bragging for your feedback. Just take a snapshot of your feedback, put it in your listing, personal message. You can type it in Photoshop or another program and post it in. So all of these is just a step-by-step process of making a template. Now, adding vehicle compatibility is a new thing that not a lot of people know about. It's really awesome. I'll show you why in a second. Do you see it says Honda Civic? Well, first of all, if you have compatibility on your listing, you automatically get on the first page, and if there's not a lot of listings, you end up going above the individual who doesn't have the compatibility. So if there's only like a few listings, you're going to go higher than your competitor. The other thing is that you can put cars that normally you wouldn't be able to fit. For example, Dodge Ram, there is a Dodge Ram 1500, 2500, 3500, and then there's a year of ranges that the car would fit. There's no way you can fit everything in the listing, but that's when this comes in. You put in the compatibility that it fits a certain car. You don't need to worry about putting in all the makes and models into the title because the company will take care of it. So same thing goes with like Chevy. Do you call your listing Chevy Camaro or Chevrolet Camaro? Using compatibility, it's not going to matter how you do it. You can call it any way you want, and your listing will still come up in the auctions. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here, pictures are very, very important. So, I made a very basic template here, just going down the list, and you can just kind of see the pictures that I took myself. So I took, close shots of the installed example, nice pictures. The installed example is not mine. You just find it on Google. Just go to Google, type in, Dodge Ram wood, and most likely find some examples. But, these pictures is what makes this product sell. It gives the real feel of the product. Obviously, I made it like a long listing so the customer keeps scrolling down and down. So here's my description, here's my feedback, here's the colors that's available. Here's talking about the product, how much thinner it is, talking about that it's made in the USA, talking about the polyurethane, lifetime warranty, carbon fiber colors. So I got a lot of stuff talking about this listing, which is much more than my competitors talk about the listing. Somebody who is really looking for quality and information, I'm sure they'll appreciate all this extra information about the product. And considering that I have these perfect looking up close pictures of the product itself, I'm going to be the one outselling my competitors, and I have for this specific kit. The only time I get a poor sell-through ratio on a specific kit is when I'm not really good on price, or usually I'm very good on price. It's more pieces versus price. So for example, let's say I'm selling this for this price, and somebody is going to be offering 51 pieces, but for $5 more or $10 more or even $40 more, one piece matters. People will pay an extra few dollars or $10 or $20 to get an extra piece. So I guess the biggest difficulty in dash kits is making sure your kit is just as big enough as your competitor, and that's what we've been working on. So we've been optimizing our own templates to make them the same size, if not bigger, than our competitors, so our dealers can have a better success rate in selling specific kits. But that's just one example, and any listing you're going to go and see from me is going to have really beautiful examples, and that's exactly why I can depend on selling the kit over and over again, because I know that my pictures are better than my competitors. This one is nice. I took really nice pictures of this one too, which is the Zebrano color. You can see a nice up-close shot of it. I'm laying it out on the floor, laying it out in the package, making up-close shot of the design and the color, and installed example, packaging, feedback colors, and so on. So this is basically what makes your product sell. That's how you make it better than your competitor. You put in more of everything, specific actual images. Don't put the garbage images that are not relevant to your listing, and you'll do very well. Now, as far as the compatibility mode, I know a lot of people were asking me, like, how do I do it? Well, I believe that the only way to do it at this time is through the Turbo Lister itself. You need to update your Turbo Lister, because if you have the old version or if you just downloaded the Turbo Lister 2, it's not going to have the compatibility options. So you will need to run an update. When you download your TurboLister, go to Tools, check for Program Updates, and once you did your update, you're going to get the compatibility turned on automatically. I don't know if I have an updated on this computer, but let me just open up the listing and I'll show you where it would be. Under Details, if you have an updated TurboLister, one of the fields here is going to say Compatibility, and if you press Edit, you can actually add specific vehicles that would fit a specific car. That's how the compatibility works. And just a heads up for your information, every top 5 seller for any kind of product line has compatibility on. So just in case you don't, you're missing what the top sellers have. And when you get into products like American trucks like the Dodge Ram and Chevy Silverado, that's a real lifesaver, because the Silverado alone has like 1500, 2500, 1500 HD, 2500 HD, 3500, all those different models. There's no way you can put them in your listing. That's where compatibility comes in and your listing is actually found. The other thing is add additional specs in part numbers. That basically means under item specifications or specifics, you're going to put the last 2 digits of the year range just in case, like, 00, 01, 02, 03, 04, whatever. And obviously the part number of the product would help as well, just in case people are going to end up searching for that. So we did research on how to find what sells on eBay and, make a little spreadsheet for ourselves to see where we need to be as far as, buying the product for. The next thing we went over is how to make our listing better than our competitor. And specifically, once we have the right products at the right price, now it's time to make it better than our competitor. And the next thing is product sourcing. Like, how do you get these parts at the right prices? Like I said earlier, it's very hard to go for popular brand names because, like everyone else, you're not the only one who's trying to get a great discount to compete on eBay. Chances are you're not going to get a very good price. So you have a few options. Do a buy-in with the manufacturers. I'm against taking loans to buy product, but if you know that there is a certain hot sellers that keep selling over and over again and your prices are really competitive, like the other day, well, I haven't closed a deal yet, but we're possibly doing a buy-in with Garmin for $50,000. And, I don't have $50,000. I do have an open loan that I can use for that much. Not a lot of people do have that, but maybe you know someone or whatever. But the bottom line is that Garmin is giving me a price where even if I end up liquidating the product, which means I'm going to sell it for the same price I bought it for, I'll be really, really cheap. I'm talking about like extremely cheap. And according to Terapeak, Garmin sells like over $1 million in products every month. So considering I have the best possible price and I don't have a lot of overhead like the other guys do, who has $50,000 on their hands, and don't have a huge overhead. Obviously, if you have a loan and you have a garage, you can just shove everything in there and just liquidate it, but that's a different story. But even if I liquidate it, I can basically get my money back in a month. So in other words, I'm going to get a loan under a very small percent, and then I can pay the whole loan back in less than 2 months, in my case, and then I'm going to get this really nice discount with Garmin where I'm going to be making a few $100,000 every year from the product. But like I said, not everybody can do this, and you don't have to do what I just said. You don't have to go and spend that much money and risk so much money, loan and whatever. You can go for something like dash trim kits or some other products that, it's in demand. There is no private label, and you're dealing with a manufacturer directly. So one of the things that I set up, and I put it on yakuza.com, you'll actually find it right under featured products. I made something called an eBay starter package. There's 2 options here. There is a package which is 10 dash trim kits, and that package price is $200, okay, which makes each free shipping. So that makes each kit $20. Just to give you an idea of what kind of kits, I have one standing right next to me, okay, Chrysler 300C, just to give you an idea of how well some of these kits sell. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of sales. Let me just do a full report just so we can get a full number right off the bat. Okay, extremely hot seller, right? 25 sold each month. Average price $86. Obviously, we saw that there was some kits, $129. Most of them are like $129, $129, and so on. Some of them are less, averaging into $86. So your price on this one kit will be $20. Free shipping, right? Even if you buy it and you liquidate it, you can make your $20 back. But the whole idea for the starter package is so you can actually get started and get a feel for it and not risk losing money, because there's no possible way that you can't sell a kit for $20. You're supposed to be listing this kit for the same price as everyone else, like $129, giving it 30 days, letting it sell, and making your $100 profit from it. Obviously, on the second kit, it's not going to be $20 anymore. The second kit, you will have to order at a regular price, whatever that price will be. So usually when you go for the starter package, I give you a very competitive discount on dash trim kits so you can compete on eBay, and I also give you the first 10 kits that you should concentrate on. So you list them, and once they sell, you're going to keep relisting them over and over again. So it's kind of taking 10 kits at a time and making them perfect and making them 100% sell-through ratio. So I'm only going to give you kits that sell. I'm not going to give you like stuff that doesn't sell. So we do some research on TerraPeak, make sure that it sells at least twice or 3 times a month, and then that's one kit that we're going to send out to you. One reason we do it, because this is inventory stock, so it's not like I'm taking money out of my pocket and doing this. This is already frozen money. It's just sitting on the shelf right now, and the more it sits on the shelf, the less value it has. So even if I can give this kit out for free and then have a long-term dealer who's going to keep on ordering more and more because he took really good pictures and made his listing very nice, it's worth it for us to do it. That's why we're giving it away for so cheap. But basically, this is what this is, and theoretically, you can keep ordering as many as you want. Every time you sell 10 kits and you're ready for the next 10 models, you buy another starter package. And obviously, once we feel that our dealers are taking over a big portion of the market share on eBay, we're going to discontinue this. The other package is priced at $450, and this includes an e-commerce website specifically designed around dash kits. So every time we're going to promote a new starter package for eBay, like, this time we're doing dash kits and e-commerce website, well, we're going to do an e-commerce website for, whatever we promote. So just to give you an idea of what kind of website it's going to be, it's going to be a website on the Shopping Cart Lead platform, already preloaded with all the products. It's going to have dash trim kits preloaded. It's going to be a dash trim kit theme with a design, the whole 9 yards. The whole idea for this is there's actually 3 reasons why. Number one is Shopping Cart Lead has an integrated eBay listing tool with a compatibility, which means for you to get an auction up online is literally going to take a few seconds. Not that you should use that template, because you obviously want to do some research to see if somebody has a better template. The Shopping Cart Elite is a standard template. It's nice, but like I said, my webinar template that I just made is nicer, so you want to integrate that template instead. But nonetheless, it's available. That's one reason. Reason number 2 is as you're promoting these inexpensive kits, you can drive more traffic to this website basically just by saying, hey, visit my website, I have more models. So if somebody, because I get tons of questions all the time, do you have this car? Do you have a kit for this car? And instead of just telling people, yeah, I do, and trying to make an auction for it, you just say, yeah, go to my website and check it out. Just go to vehicles, type in whatever vehicle you have, and buy it right from my website, and you save on eBay fees. You make more money with it. And the third reason, that's obviously for you to start a website and get diverted traffic. So not eBay traffic, but Google traffic, Google base. We're going to be releasing shortly more marketplaces to submit to for free and paid marketplaces where you can get more orders. So if you have a really good discount on your dash kits, because you will, because you did the starter package and I gave you additional points on it, there's no reason for you not to sell it on Google. If you can sell it on eBay, you can sell it anywhere. These 2 packages, you have 10 dash trim kits at $20 each, free shipping, which is $200, or 10 dash trim kits with an e-commerce website for $450. So basically it's $250 more, and you get a whole website. And the website, the first month, there's no fee. After that, there's a $49 per month monthly fee just for this dash kit. Usually it's much more, but just because we're promoting this bundle with the dash kits, it's $49 for this specific website. So basically, if you're interested, you can just sign up on yakuza.com unless you already have an account, and you can check it out from here. The second part, if you don't want to do dash trim kits, or if you have your own products. And by the way, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, on Yakuza.com, I'm also constantly putting specials like that I recommend that you sell on eBay. And most of the stuff is because we're liquidating it, so the prices are really cheap. I recommend for you to look at this stuff as well to consider selling on eBay. If you have other things that you would like to sell on eBay, brands like Mimo USA, if there's something else like eyelets, for example, we can work something out as far as a discount. So, it doesn't have to be Dash Trim Kits. It could be anything. But Dash Trim Kits is a really hot product. I recommend it. So the second thing is negotiating deals with manufacturers who are not on eBay. So when I say manufacturers who are not on eBay, you might find that someone selling headlights, which is a huge industry. There's over $1 million in sales every 30 days for headlights on eBay. The manufacturers themselves go and sell on eBay. The only way for you to get a better price is to go direct to the manufacturer overseas, which requires stocking, requires money to be tied up, and so on. So when I say manufacturers are not on eBay, I'm talking about brand name manufacturers. And again, it still involves money. So on very, very rare occasions do I see things happen where you can get a really, really, really good price and not do a buy-in. It exists. Just to give you a hint how, well, negotiating with a manufacturer, basically showing him the numbers that you can do based on your research, and promising him, asking for a trial basis, giving him a very small amount of money to hold on to just for a trial period, tapping into distributors' discounts, having distributors compete against their own discounts. Company called Turn 14 doesn't have bad discounts for a lot of products. Just to give you an example, let me go to my line card here. They do require a buy-in, I believe, for new dealers. But if you can bypass that buy-in, some lines they actually have really good discounts on, like AEM, for example. For some reason, for AEM, I couldn't get less than 22% off Jobber. No way. Like, nobody would give it to me. I tried about 4 distributors. And then I log into Turn 14, and they're giving me 30 off Jobber, which is pretty crazy. And I can actually compete with that discount. So small-time distributors who have really big buying power can give you those discounts. I know one of the shopping Curly distributors, like AMP Distributing, had really good discounts on Laminix, films, and K&N products, really good discounts. So you might want to try them. But again, you have to go do your research first, and you have to go to them and tell them, listen, this is what I need based on these numbers. This is what I'm going to do. You got to tell them that you're going to do something about it. You're going to have to basically present them my PowerPoint and your own version of how you're going to sell their product and do X amount of dollars every month. Otherwise, you're going to sound just like another guy who wants to sell products at a low price. And I don't want to deal with somebody who's not going to pay full attention to my line. If I'm going to give you a discount where I make minimum amount of money, I expect you to do a maximum amount of work. So this goes with any distributor. And if you're just going to go to a random one and ask for a discount, don't expect to get one, because you're probably not. But this is how to negotiate, or at least find products that are brand name at a very good price. That's just one of the suggestions that I have for you. What do you need to start? You need Terapeak research, terapeak.com, $35 a month. If you're going to be selling dash kits, I'll give you access to my account so you don't have to, buy it. Or if you do any products that are through Yakuza, you can use the account. You need to find the right product at the right price. You need a photo set. Now, I don't sell the photo sets, but I do give links of which ones I recommend. It is not necessary to have a photo set. It's really not. If you don't want a photo set, you don't want to do camera, Photoshop, it doesn't have to be that way. I do that because I want to have the best listing. I want to pay my full attention to make the best listing. And like Webinar, I don't need to do this because they have excellent pictures. But for dash kits, for example, I don't have an installed example of every single picture. I don't have an actual picture product of every single product. So basically, like, I gave you as much as I could on dash kits. You can see it says like aluminum, quality, components of a dash trim kit, thickness, warranty, made in USA. So all the stuff I had in my template, I put it here. And by the way, with the starter kit, I give you my template to use for the other kits. So the whole idea behind it is for you to sell other kits, not kits that compete with other dealers. So you're going to have a unique set of models to offer. But as far as the photo set goes, I put a few links here. So basically, I auction template, so you can get an idea of how the auction template looks. And then I have this 48-inch photo tent, which I use in my office. $209 free shipping. Like I said, you don't have to buy it if you don't want to, but if you want perfect actual product pictures, this is a really good product. I don't know what kind of camera you have. If you're not looking to invest a lot into this, you can use any camera you have, but this is the one I use. It's it's expensive, but it's a one-time investment, and that's why my pictures look the way they are, like really sharp and crisp, and I don't need to take 100 photos. I take one photo and it usually comes out perfect right away. So this is the camera that I use. And obviously, you need Photoshop. Any version will do. Trial version will do. You don't have to buy it if you're doing a few pictures, just to edit out the blurs and stuff like that. If you're not good at it, don't worry about it. Like I said, you can use other people's pictures using Google Images and finding it there and making your auction as good as it can be. If you're looking for perfection, this is what you need for perfection. Photo set, good camera, Photoshop, and then custom template or shopping cart lead, which also comes with a template. So custom template, I'm going to put it up on your Yakuza as a product that you can buy. It's going to cost, I believe it's going to be $100, or maybe it's going to be basically there's going to be one price for if you give us a draft of how you want the template to look. It's going to be one price. It's probably going to be $100 or around there. And if you want us to do the research for you and then do everything ourselves and give you back a TurboLister template with a research, it's going to be another price, which we're estimating will be around $250. That's if you want us to make the template for you. The other solution is go with the shopping cart lead website, which will have a template built in, and it's a pretty neat template, so you can use that and obviously link back to your website for your auctions so you can try to convert more sales from there. So this is the end of the webinar. If you have any question, you can post it now. Okay, there was a question about did you use Photoshop on the webinar template? I didn't personally do it. I gave it to my designer, who obviously did it in Photoshop as a draft to show me if I like it, and then he was going to slice it up and make it TurboLister friendly so I can list it on eBay. The template in Shopping Cart Lead. In Shopping Cart Lead, you can sell on eBay, Amazon, using the marketplace. If you select to sell on eBay, once you're done selecting which listings you want to sell on eBay, it's going to make a template for you. It's a standard template right now. We're going to later on make it where people can customize it using different tags. But if you go to General Marketplace and Shopping Cart Lead, if you go to General and Marketplace and you have eBay here, basically, once you finish all the steps, it's going to give you a TurboLister friendly file, and it's going to have an eBay template already built in. So you don't have to go list one at a time. You can use Shopping Cart Lead to do it for you. There's another question if we're going to limit on how many DashKit websites we're going to allow, so there won't be too many. Obviously, we're going to have a limit. Right now, the limit is 5, I believe. So, after 5 sales of the eBay starter package with a website, that option is going to go offline. We're not expecting a lot of people to sign up for it because, maybe you're not looking to do dash kits or whatever reason, but we're expecting at least 5 people to sign up, and that's what the limit is expected to be for that option. As far as the regular dash kit option where you can just buy the dash kits for yourself, basically we're going to just look at the marketplace as more sellers are going to come on board. Like I said earlier, there's close to 3,500 or close to 4,000 different applications that could be listed. So there's a lot of listings that we can do where one dealer does not compete with another, and we'll make sure that as dealers sign up, we're going to send them kits that other people don't have listed. That's how we're going to handle that, so nobody steps on each other's feet when they're going to sell on eBay. There's a question about which shopping cart do we prefer to use. We are obviously, promoting Shopping Cart Lead because this is an automotive-specific shopping cart that we created for, in the beginning for our dealers, and we went public with it. So if you want more details about it, just go to shoppingcartlead.com. The DashKit websites will be based on the shoppingcartlead.com platform. There's a question on when do we expect other website packages to start. We're basically concentrated on one at a time. At the moment, we're doing dash kits. Whatever we have good prices on, we also list it under the eBay specials. Once we take on the product for dash kits and we're satisfied with the exposure of it, we're going to take on the next product. If you have a product in mind that you want to do, you can send us an email, let us know, and if we can do it, we can set it up under the same terms as the dash kits except for that other product. Just to give you a few hints, headlight eyelids, we can really do dirt cheap if necessary to compete. And the good thing about eyelids is that we have over 200 applications and there is 0 competitors to our templates. We used to sell them a lot. We stopped because it was just too much work to be done when there were single orders coming in. But if you want to do something with eyelids, you can let us know. We can discuss it. There's also a question if we prefer PayPal or a full merchant account. I'm assuming this is for a website because on eBay, majority of people pay with PayPal. If you're doing a website, you can start off with PayPal, and if the only traffic that you're really getting is from eBay, just having PayPal as an option is fine. But if you're planning to go nationwide and target everybody, Google traffic and Yahoo and so on, you need a merchant account because a lot of people do not want to do PayPal. You're going to just lose customers that way. Merchant account through payleap.com is like $29 a month. If you're getting traffic and somebody wants to buy something and your profit is $50 and you're going to lose that customer because you didn't want to do PayPal, you just lost money without paying the expense. There's a question if you can do the eBay package and then if it's successful to upgrade to the website package without paying for the 10 more dash kits. If it's still available, the answer is yes. If the website will not be available anymore, you can still get a website through Shopping Cart Elite for dash kits. Like we can set it up the same way. I'm not guaranteeing you on the monthly price because the monthly price of $49 a month is purely promotional for 5 dash kit websites only right now. Usually it's like $99 or $129 depending on if you're paying monthly or annually. The answer is yes if it's still available. If not, then I guess whenever you inquire, we'll have to see where we are and decide then. You can contact me at sales@yakuza.com. I'm doing those emails right now, so I'll get your email from there. You can just go to sales, contact us, just fill out a form there. Okay, thanks for coming, everyone. Have a good evening,